Hello friends, welcome back again to our channel School of Political Science. In previous video, I have talked about basic outlines of realism and origin of realism. If you are new on this channel, you can find that link of the video in the description below. So please do subscribe our channel and click bell icon to get notification of our latest videos. My dear friends, in this video, I am going to talk on classical realism and neorealism. So let's start. Classical realism. Why is this theory called as classical? This is because this theory is associated with the classical thinkers like Thucydides, Niccolò Machiavelli and Thomas Hobbes and others. I have already discussed about these thinkers and their contribution in realism in previous video. Link is provided in the description below. So, who implements the ideas of those classical thinkers in the classical theory of realism in international relations? E. H. Carr and Hans J. Morgenthau are the inventors of classical realism in international relations. E. H. Carr's famous book, The 20-Year Crisis in 1939, lays the foundation for this theory. However, the book is a more criticism of contemporary idealism than a discussion of the theory of international relations. According to him, idealists are more influenced by dreams neither than thoughts nor by standardizations than observation. He also says that political realism will be established through a critic perspective and will look at the real events as a result of their causality and consequences. Realists believe the role of power in international field and identify power as the root cause of conflict. He also thinks that in the case of inconsistent politics, the powerful groups themselves talk about maintaining peace and domination just as the governing groups maintain peace. Just as in the international field, the powerful states talk about maintaining peace. Any state should increase its national strength and resist the power of the powerful state through the balance of power. Next inventors of classical realism is Hans J. Morgenthau. Hans J. Morgenthau's Politics Among Nations, The Struggle for Power and Peace, is the finest book in the classical realist theory. He believes that the science of international relations will be made through the tradition of real-life events and by the proper application of meaningful law. According to him, the theory will be realistic, independent, insightful, and consistent with empirical reality. Hans J. Morgenthau gives 6 principles of political realism. These are: number 1. Politics is governed by objective laws which have their roots in human nature. Number 2. The key to understanding international politics is the concept of interest defined in terms of power. Number 3. The forms and nature of state power will vary in time, place, and context, but the concept of interest remains consistent. Number 4. Universal moral principles do not guide state behavior, although this does not rule out an awareness of the moral significance of the political action. Number 5. Moral aspirations are specific to a particular nation. There is no universally agreed set of moral principles. Number 6. The political sphere is autonomous, meaning that the key question in international politics is how does this policy affect the power of the nation? After classical realism, it's time for neorealism. So what is neorealism and why neorealism has emerged in late 1970s? It is because of the emergence of neoliberalism. Neoliberal has created to overcome the criticism that began in the realism discourse. The neoliberals' criticism was that realism has failed to acknowledge the importance of economics in international relations and the changing role of the establishment of different non-state actors or establishment in the context of changing economies. To counter this criticism, neorealism has gained its importance in the late 1970s. First of all, you need to know that neorealism is a restatement of classical realism, but it has certain changes. What are those changes? I will answer this question through the discussion of neorealist thinkers. Kenneth Walsh and John Mearsheimer are the chief exponent of neorealism. Kenneth Walsh, in his Theory of International Politics, has stated the basic idea of this theory. According to him, the main theories of conventional international relations, whether it is system theory or Marxist theory, are mainly theories which explain international relations in some elements or combination of them, but they have never been able to explain international relations through structure. Neorealism very much emphasizes on structural analysis of international relations. There are mainly two objectives of realism. Firstly, interpreting the discussion of state-based international relations through a structure instead of human nature. That is why this theory also called structural theory of realism. Secondly, try to explain the tendency to interpret international politics through political and military relations through political realism and economic tradition. To understand international relations, so from structural point of view, Walsh gives three key elements of neorealism. Number 1, organizing principles of the system. Number 2, differentiation of units in the system. Number 3, the distribution of the capabilities of the units in the system. He discussed two types of organizing principles. One is anarchy, which refers to the every state struggle for power in international politics. Other one is hierarchy, which refers to the basis of domestic order. According to the Walsh, the units of international system are functionally similar to the sovereign state. There are no difference between the units because all are sovereign. No one controls each other. For Walsh, the third element is very important, which is the distribution of capabilities of the units in the system. War and peace depends on the nature of power distribution among the units. It is the key independent variable to understand the outcomes of international politics like war and peace, alliance politics, and also the balance of power. For example, during the Cold War, the world are divided into two blocks in the name of NATO and Warsaw Pact. In this period, we have seen powers are distributed among these two blocks and international system was bipolar in nature. He has also argued that every unit of the system feels fear of others' capability of power, and this fear drives that unit to strengthen their own defensive power. This is called self-help. So it can say that main constitutive principles of international politics is the anarchy and the absence of international authority. The main goal of all states is to increase their power through self-defense and military development. So ultimate concern of the state is not power but for security. So Walsh wants to discuss the international politics through structure which implies defensive realism. Another exponent of neorealism or structural realism is John Mearsheimer. He provides us the theory of offensive realism instead of Walsh's theory of Defensive realism. World defensive realism argues that the anarchical structure of the international system encourages states to maintain moderate and reserved policies to attain security. So, what is offensive realism for Mearsheimer? Mearsheimer, in his Tragedy of Great Power Politics, has explained offensive realism. According to him, in anarchical international system, self-help plays a crucial role for taking action of states, but states cannot be sure of the real purpose of another state. And this is exactly why states want to increase their power and establish their dominance and hegemony in the international system. In simple, states try to achieve security through domination and hegemony over the other states. I hope you understand what classical realism and neorealism is. So thank you friends for watching this video. In next video, I will cover the basic assumptions and principles of realism. So please do subscribe our channel and click bell icons to get notification of our latest videos.